And now for our main story of the day, the Giga Chad himself, Michael Saylor, predicting the likelihood of a spot Bitcoin ETF being approved, which will send the Bitcoin price to $1 million per coin. If you'd personally love to see a $1 million BTC, let me know in the comments below, and let's see if we'll make this baby happen. So here we go. This is a prediction he made, which I transcribed from an interview. Here's what Michael Saylor had to say word for word. It looks like a spot ETF will probably get approved. There is massive political pressure to approve one. Facts. The circumstances have changed, and now there is a way for the SEC to approve it without backtracking on its previous legal and policy guidance. Certainly, there are a lot of Wall Street entities that have a vested interest in seeing this happen. If you're an institution, one way to get Bitcoin exposure is to buy the underlying asset, but there have been challenges with finding the right exchange to buy it on and custody arrangement. So a similar way to do so is to buy the spot ETF. There are trillions of dollars in capital that is required to invest in a security that trades in these compliant forums and is understating the obvious. There's tens of trillions of dollars. So there's a lot of capital that can't buy the Bitcoin or self-custody the Bitcoin. They don't want to do charter. Maybe it's against the tax code. Maybe when they raised $10 billion from public investors, they raised it to invest in securities, but not interested in property or commodities. So the spot ETF availability is a major milestone for institutional adoption. The approval of a spot ETF is a major milestone in regulatory clarity, which is tantamount to an endorsement. The engagement of Fidelity, Citadel, BlackRock, and Schwab. I mean, Schwab is synonymous with Wall Street, 100 years of Wall Street. So what you have is Wall Street coming together to offer securities and exchange services and indirectly custody services for mainstream investors. And we look out about 12 months. And if I was saying, what are the key milestones that drive mainstream adoption of Bitcoin? Well, one of them is clearly a spot ETF. The second is a designation that Bitcoin is an asset class, in which we already know that, right? The recognition of it as a legitimate commodity. It's a big deal. When Jerome Powell says it's not going away, when Gensler and the head of the SEC and CFTC both say it's a digital commodity. Digital commodity might not sound like much when you go down the next round. Like, is it a Ponzi scheme, or is it a scam, or is it tulip bulbs? The difference between tulip bulbs and a digital commodity is a 0 versus a 1. I have said it before and I'll repeat it again. Listen up. If it's not going to 0, it's going to $1 million per coin. It is either nothing, and if it's nothing, then it's getting scrubbed out and banned. And of course, we now know it's not getting banned. There is no way that Fidelity, Citadel, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, Deutsche Bank, Credit Agricole, Banco Santander all decide they're interested in this. They're not endorsing a tulip bulb, right? Once you go from 0 to 1, then the question is, well, it's an asset class, and if it's not going away, well, what's it worth? Well, it's worth 1% of the assets in the world. So 1% drives it up by a factor of 10 to 20. So there you have it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with Saylor. And more recently, Michael Saylor, when asked by Natalie Brunell on the Coin Stories pod, should we trust BlackRock with Bitcoin? Listen up to what Saylor had to share. And again, I transcribed this word for word. Bitcoin fixes everything. If we think about what that means, we need to be prepared for Bitcoin to infuse everything. The right way to think about it, Bitcoin is going to be a base layer, and there's going to be layer 2s like Lightning to move things fast. And there's going to be layer 3s, which is custodial, like Cash App, like Coinbase, like Fidelity, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Apple, Google. There's going to be custodial layer 3s, and they are going to exist to provide functionality or utility. And there are technical reasons to trust a third party. The best way to think about Bitcoin is Bitcoin offers sovereignty and integrity and empowerment, not just to the individual, but also to the family, the clan, the village, the city, the county, the state, the province, the country, the company, the institution, the agency, the group, the community, organization. Every one of these entities, they all have their own agency, and we want them to, do we not want them to have access to this? Bitcoin makes your country better, makes your company better, makes your family better, makes your community better, makes your school better, makes you better. Preach. It's going to be everything, make everyone better, but there's different types of wrappers we need to put it in. So we shouldn't be afraid of those things. Someone said, well, aren't you afraid that these big organizations like BlackRock are going to buy Bitcoin and centralize it? And I said, it's like asking me if I'm afraid someone in Japan is going to speak English and if that's going to undermine the English language. If Samsung is the biggest company in Korea and they start speaking English and they build support for English into their products, does that corrupt the English language? No, it actually makes English better. They're going to use it differently. that's the likelihood, or I mean, what's the likelihood Samsung can change that definition of love or change the meaning of 100 different words by adopting it? Not very likely. So I think it's a protocol. The protocol is going to infuse everything, and we shouldn't be afraid of all the different ways that people choose to integrate, wrap, embed, or execute with Bitcoin. There is no one right answer, and the marketplace will determine the right mix of integrations of Bitcoin. So there you have it, coming directly from the one and only Michael Saylor. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And I think these are some great points in which he made. And I also agree that a Bitcoin spot ETF is likely to be approved, and we could easily absorb at least 1% of the total addressable market, which in all honesty is going to send the Bitcoin price way north of $1 million, because the total addressable market is north of $700 trillion. So if someone could break down the math for me here, that would be fantastic.